So I'm picking up on two different atmospheres today. One is where you question your reality, you question what is true. You need a reality check, you need to touch things, and you might be telling to yourself, I don't believe in my eyes, I don't believe in my ears, because there's so much of everything going on and everything seems to be true and you're a little bit disoriented. Another reality is, now I'm talking to either your current self plus future self or your past self plus current self. But one part of it is you're in the environment where you don't want to be and you're hoping that you will get out of it somehow because you have something else going on, you have somewhere else to be. And every time you go there, you're kind of walking with, I hope this is the last time I go there. And then you shift into what is either current or future, where you do have that space and time where you can do something that you actually want to do. You can have this other thing that you have for yourself happening. You have all the ingredients to create something, and it seems to be that, or at least there is an impression that it's supposed to be like a dream come true, but it's kind of not. Something is missing, something is not really clicking into place yet. And it's not that you don't know what that is, because you do have clues. I'm literally having a vision of sitting on the floor with a lot of pictures and trying to make sense of them all. Kind of like trying to make one big picture from a lot of different pictures. And those little different pictures I'm seeing as screenshots from your higher self that were given to your human self about clues that bring you into the awareness of what exactly is missing. So if that speaks to you, then this painting is going to be for you. You found yourself in my living room again. This is a space where we co-create a painting. I'm going to be painting energies related to those things that I just said. And if something finds you in the right place at the right time, and if it helps you orient yourself, and if it helps you navigate your human experience, and if it helps you connect the dots, then that's great. And if it doesn't, you can hold space that it might be for somebody else. You can make it happen for them by clicking the buttons so that it reaches people that it needs to reach. And if you really can't stand being here for whatever reason, you're free to leave and you're free to come back whenever you want. Please use your intuition and use your discernment at all times. I have only this as white paint. So, in the last painting I thought I don't have white paint anymore, but this is the only leftover that I have. Tomorrow I'm gonna get more. So, we'll have to improvise. Yeah. Beautiful. I was picking up on this energy very heavily today of questioning reality, not in this like classic conventional way of what is reality, is it what you create or is it out there, or who am I and all of that, not in this, but rather in like making present moment reality checks of like, am I sane still? Because there is so much information happening from all over the place, like literally everything you want to believe as true is existing. So it seems as if everything that is a topic of a conversation has a truth and a lie to it, and you can choose where you want to stand, and it's a little bit overwhelming. And you might be even looking at certain things and believing that you see what you see and sharing it with others and be like, yeah, this is what I see, but then they'd be like, no, this is something else. I'm gonna give my own personal experience from today that kind of resembles the atmosphere that I'm picking up on. So I haven't seen somebody for more than 10 years. And recently I was walking outside, it was beginning of January, I went out for a walk, and I've seen some people on the street, and I wasn't sure if those were those people that I haven't seen for 10 years, so I looked at them and they looked back at me, and we were looking at each other and we were checking if that's actually that other person or not. And we walked past next to each other, and then we turned around to check if those are actually those people. They turned around and I turned around and we looked. But you know, it was 10 years, plus it was dark outside, so we couldn't really see for sure if those are those people or if that's me. So we just kept walking. And as we kept walking, I was left with the feeling that it's probably them. I wasn't sure, but I thought if it was them, I would be happy to say hi. So I texted them. And I said, hey, I just saw people on the street and I wonder if that was you. And they answered, yes, it was us, indeed. And we arranged that we're going to see each other first time after 10 years, and we did today. And it was funny how we met. And we were laughing about how we came together after 10 years. And then one of them asked me, but wait, when was it that we saw each other on the street? And I said beginning of January, and I had a specific date because I remember I saw when I sent the message, and I sent the message right after I saw them on the street. And they said, yeah, but we were not in the city at that time, so it wasn't us. And I said, but you told me that it was you. And they said, well, you know, it happens sometimes that I think I see somebody out there in the crowd, but then it turns out that it's not. And so I had feeling that I saw you, but then I thought it's probably not you. And then when you texted me, then I thought, well, I guess it was indeed you. So that's why I said it was you. But it turned out that we didn't see each other on the street because they were not even in the city at the time when I texted right after that encounter happened. And that type of a vibe of, is it real? Like, did this really happen or not? Or I thought this was real, but then it turns out it wasn't, and vice versa. I was just like, there also might be, I also picked up on something that it's kind of like, it's an illusion. It's like you don't believe in that kind of stuff, and then suddenly you see it being real. Or you might be encountering something that is completely contradictory, being together and is being presented as normal, and you're like, wait a second, aren't these two things supposed to be somewhere else? And it's just like, there's like, I would describe it as like bubbles of confusion that is just being thrown out there just like that. And it's been today present more than usually, more so enough to stop me in my tracks and make me think, am I losing my sanity? Do I need a reality check? And so I did stop in my tracks, and I was like, am I okay? And in that moment I was getting a really clear, it was as if something came from above and just like cleared everything and just left me being in the body. That was such a beautiful feeling. Just being fully present, fully relaxed, and then listening to the body. Remembering that your body is the instrument of picking up of what's going on. And I was shown certain things from the heart space that were happening, which my mind was overthinking. So I was getting the impulse to act based on what my heart is leading me to, what my body is telling me this is true. But then my mind was like, yeah, but what if that wasn't true? What if that isn't true? What if? And then I was hearing quite a clear instruction saying, you have to allow yourself this buffer space to make a mistake, to be proven wrong, to disillusion yourself, to believe that something is true and then see that it isn't, or the other way around. You have to allow some kind of a space where things can a little bit shift and, I don't know how to say that, like, wiggle? You have to allow some buffer space for things to kind of like not be firmly in place. And I was also told that I mean, like this kind of a thing, like just follow your heart and act on your heart is kind of like a cliche things to say, but it showed me that your heart sometimes when you act upon it, it doesn't necessarily mean that your heart knows the truth and that your heart will always lead you in the right places. It will, but your heart will also lead you to places where it will expose that there is something inside of you that isn't necessarily true, but your body and your mind and your whole being is holding it as true. And so your heart will lead you there just to shed some light on it. Is it true or is it not true? So that if it's not true, that you can take action according to it. Maybe you want to eliminate that, change that, or update that, or do whatever you have to do it with this field that your heart is bringing you into. But it definitely will bring some light. And all this came rather like, not just like a one-time message for this one particular day. It came kind of like an exercise. Just like a few paintings ago, I was getting this, what is the most true for you in this moment? And then take 3 minutes out of your day and check what is the most true for you right now. And practice this multiple times a day, couple of days, and orient yourself towards what is the most true. In the same way it came to me, act on your heart. Like, your heart might give you little signals and urges and little sensations and feelings and information, and some of them might come with act on it, and you have to practice acting on it without overthinking it. Like, completely just get the overthinking out of the window and replace the overthinking with willingness to learn, willingness to make mistakes, and willingness to be proven wrong. It's a really good place to be, I feel. This blue often feels like that clear being, clear feeling that you get when you just feel something and you feel it to be true, and you feel it to, not even like needing it to be true, but just being in your body enough that it doesn't matter if something is true or not, because you are tuned into your body, and that kind of creates this feeling of that's all that matters. There is also something, there is something about it when you, through illusions, you come together. Like, something works out against all odds in terms of, like, nobody actually saw each other on the street, but our contact after 10 years brought us back into sharing lunch together and meeting after 10 years, although, you know, we didn't really see each other on the street. So we did believe in some sort of an illusion that we did, but we didn't. But still, we ended up seeing each other after 10 years. So it tells me about that there's, it's like, I don't know, like I'm picking up on this, like, I don't know, like the need to dismantle the illusion and always being the truth, but sometimes the illusion is exactly the thing that you need. Yeah. I don't know if that makes any sense. That's kind of how it feels right now. Okay, now I'm gonna move to the other vision that I was having, which was quite intriguing. So I was seeing somebody being in one life chapter and hoping for that life chapter to end. And in that life chapter there was like a implied pressure of some sort, like being in a system of some sort. Could be even just school, university, workplace, where you gotta be, whether you like it or not. Something that takes time, space and energy, and you just you gotta be there. And then that pressure requires some sort of a relief, and that relief comes through some sort of self-regulation practices of, you name it. Could be drinking, smoking, gambling, playing games, going clubbing, drugs. I don't know. You name it. And then there's this other life chapter that goes as a consequence of the first one, where in first one you hope that it will end and then it ends. And then you find yourself in this other life chapter where suddenly you don't have to go to that school, that university, that workplace. You have time and space to do whatever you want. And now you're in the time and space where you do whatever you want, and something feels off. In this space I was getting the vision of being in front of a big, massive door, kind of like a portal of some sort. And you've been traveling here for a very long time, and you've been preparing yourself to come here, and you wanted it for a very long time, and now you're finally here, and now you don't know how to open the door. That kind of a feeling. And here I'm getting this imagery of snapshots being taken. And those snapshots are not necessarily something that you get through deep introspection, serious work, shadow work, whatever, like 3 hours per day meditation. It's not that you were looking for it. It's not that you were intending to figure it out. Maybe you had a desire, maybe you had an intention to be like, okay, I want to know what is holding me back. Maybe you did state it on one level somehow, somewhere. But the way how it revealed itself is through conversations with other people. I'm seeing like a screenshot of your body posture as you're talking to people. Maybe people that you know or people that you don't know. Screenshot of your body movements, the way you walk as you're walking outside on the street. Picture of you sitting in front of TV or a computer, and the position that is your default resting position. It's heavily oriented on the body language. It's pictures of your body, and they present different states of your body. Sitting, talking, sitting, walking, talking, that's what I wanted to say. And each body state can give you a clue of how do you operate, how do you feel in that moment. There was also, I see a picture of how do you entertain yourself, how do you relax. Those two things are also very important. How do you entertain yourself and how do you relax? And then also how you walk, how you talk, how you hold your body as you're conversing with other people, as you're in known and unknown situations. And especially when you're with people who hold the frequency of your future self, a frequency that you aim towards and you tend to it, but you're not there yet. So how do you behave in the presence of that frequency? Let's say you want something for yourself and you don't get it yet, but somebody around you gets it. And so they come to talk to you. So how are you gonna shrink next to them because you're gonna fall into the thinking of like, yeah, they have it and I don't? Or are you gonna open yourself up to merge with this frequency so that you can feel it too, and so that you can align more so with what is it that you want? Those kind of micro awarenesses have been coming through. And when you get all of these pictures together and you put them on the floor somehow and place them one next to one another, what you get is the whole template of your reality. It's kind of like, I'm going to try to make it here. Yeah. In Croatian language, I think that this would be called matrica, which I think it's template. Matrica is template. I don't know if that would be translated as matrix, but it's kind of like a structure of being. It's the baseline of your body, how your body behaves in the space that you are throughout the day. So how your body behaves in the first half of the day, and then in the second half of the day, and then with people, without people, on the street, when you're alone, when you're relaxing, when you're taking a bath, like how there is like a strong focus on your body behavior. And from that body behavior you can get into what is that body telling to you. Like when you're relaxing, are you actually relaxing, or are you distracting yourself slightly? When you're in this pose where you relax, like, are you really relaxed, or is this a pose that you got from some survival times before? When you're entertaining yourself, are you really entertained, or are you regulated? Things like that. Because awareness of those things, they carry some sort of codes that are not the codes of the person that you're trying to become, but it's the codes of people that you have been in the past. And especially when it comes to this kind of a situation that you've been there, you worked really hard and you tried and hoped so hard that it will end, and it finally did. And now when you're in this space where you do have freedom to create something out of your lives for yourself, you're still carrying some signatures of the past times. And that also extends onto objects. It could be, now we see the card ring from the archetype oracle, and in the guidebook of that card there's a question: pay attention to your rings that you're carrying by default, because they might be actually coming from your previous selves, indicating that if you're trying to move into some sort of a future, perhaps there were some codes, structures, belief systems, behaviors from the past that you are still embodying, and that's kind of what holds you away from what is it that you really are trying to get into. And I was hearing really clearly, you can't create a new lifestyle for yourself by living by the rules of the old lifestyle. So there's something about how you live, how you move your body, and there is like a need for establishing a new baseline of some sort. Baseline, like, where do you rest? Where do you entertain yourself? Where do you focus? How do you hold your body? That was a really big thing for me in one chapter of my life, where I needed to learn how to walk again. Not literally walk, but there was something that happened in my awareness that shifted my perception of myself. And when I saw myself walking in the reflection in the mirror, I couldn't believe that that's me, because the way I used to walk did not reflect who I felt like I was becoming. And so I had to learn how to walk and how to carry my body. And there was this real awkwardness of learning how to do that, because you are so hardcore wired to the point of, like, you don't even pay attention about these silly little things, about the position of how you sit in your chair. And that it might be a sign of your old selves that are still rooted in this reality, where they have this, like, now phantom pressure from which they are seeking relief in some specific ways. And there was something really specifically about how you entertain yourself and how you relax, because these two states perhaps are rooted in the previous chapter. So when you were under a lot of pressure, those relaxation and entertainment techniques made sense, but they don't necessarily make sense now anymore. And if they did because you were in this transitionary period. And now, instead of being the reflection of your past self, you have to kind of play fetch with your future self and check what are they doing to relax and to entertain themselves, and then show up as them, for them. Does that make sense? That might be one of the clues. Like all these little cute clues, all these little screenshots might be leading into that one awareness, which is kind of like that one clue of how you can open that door for yourself. And then you see that I'm hearing like the answer is within you, and it's quite literal in this case. Like it's within your behavior, it's in your body posture and language. And also what is coming through with this is that if you don't really understand your body, usually, like you might automatically say something like, yeah, but I don't get it. And you might feel that you want to ask somebody else to look into your body and say, like, what does it tell about me? But I'm also specifically getting that it's not about outsourcing that power to other people and go to body language specialists and be like, what does this position tell about me? It's more so that awareness of you knowing yourself is coming on board for you, is being unlocked and cleared out for you, cleared out for you. It's like there is a space within you that is being cleared out so that you can clearly recognize that for yourself. It's like you don't need anybody else to tell you what does your sitting in front of a computer actually tell about you. You will know because you have the experience of being in your body throughout your whole life. So nobody else needs to tell you. And then you, from that space, also come to awareness that if there was anything standing on your way, then it was you. And it's not in some kind of like an evil shadow way, it's more so that there's just like a software update needed. Nothing to fix, nothing to change, nothing to fix, nothing to blame. That's what I want to say. But changes are kind of always required. Anyways. Yeah. And I'm having this song Aperture from Harry Styles in my head all the time playing. And I wanted to say over the last few days, like perhaps because it's spring outside and because there is so much of this new fresh energy that makes you want to go everywhere. And I don't know when the camera stopped recording because I didn't look at it, but I'm going to repeat it. I think it was at the time when I said that I'm having Aperture from Harry Styles playing in my head for quite some time recently, and I wanted to say how it's probably because of the spring and there's a lot of energy in the air, and perhaps you find yourselves listening to Harry Styles more than often, because I did find myself that one morning waking up with some Harry Styles, I think it was Golden, playing in my head. And I have this rule that I always start the day with the song that is playing in my head when I'm waking up. So I started, And then I thought, yeah, that totally makes sense because it's spring outside and Harry Styles is totally spring summer music. But then I found Aperture. And I felt that song so deeply. First few times when I was listening to it, I still keep listening to it because it's a song of this time now. But the way I experienced it was just pure unity. There's this video, if you haven't seen it, I'm gonna spoil it to you. In the video there's this dark person, kind of shadowy creature, following Harry Styles, and it's kind of like his shadow. That's how I interpreted it. And it's following him, it's always behind him, and then eventually it wants to attack him, and as it attacks, yeah, they fight a little bit, but they end up being synchronized, and they end up dancing synchronized, and that's pretty much how I experienced all this kind of shadowy appearances, whether in astral realm or whether in physical reality, of, you know, weird people that show up in your life, stalkers, or people who are obsessed with you, or when you're obsessed with somebody else, or when I'm speaking about myself as well, like all this kind of, also past people, like people from like past that you kind of, you let them know, like, hey, I'm moving into the future and I kind of don't want you to go with me, but they still follow you and you can't shake them off no matter what you do. Like all these kind of situations that it's just something comes and hunts you and it's always behind you, and every time when you turn around you see them. Every time when I looked into those situations energetically, I always found that no matter how much I don't like it, no matter how weird and creepy all these things are, there was always some sort of a synchronization that is happening on both ends. And you can see that especially in situations where you find yourself in some weird situation, and then life organizes itself in the same way that it puts you on the other end of exactly the same, not exactly the same, but the same template of the situation. So if for once you've been obsessed by somebody, like which side am I on? Okay, if for once you found yourself obsessing over somebody, life happens in a way that it puts you in a space where somebody's now obsessing over you, and now you can see both ends. And then if you've been in one position at first, you can find yourself in another position, and then you can remember what your state of being was back here. How were you thinking? What were you feeling? What were you going through? And then you recognize those same things being embodied by this other person. And then if you've ever been wondering, like, how can they behave this way? How can they be on the other end and do exactly the thing that they're doing? Then you're being put in the other side, just to kind of get how is it to be in their shoes, and to learn a little bit more empathy and compassion and understanding of how this life works in those weird scenarios. And yeah, I really resonated deeply with the video. I really kind of I was like, yep, that just kind of cinematically makes perfect sense to me, and it's very beautiful to look at. But also the words, we belong together. It's like you and your shadow, you always belong together. You can't escape it. It will always be there. You can even learn to expect it. And then you also see that it isn't just you versus your shadow, but that it's all just one consciousness interacting with itself through everything and everybody else. And how the world is always speaking to you through everything and everybody else. It's just one thing living itself. In the lyrics, it finally appears, it's only love. I was very moved by that. That's my spring song for now. And I also want to acknowledge how this kind of thinking and this whole philosophy, because it appears to be a philosophy, if you if you look at it from the mental realm and you never experienced it for yourself as your own personal truth, I want to acknowledge that if you have experienced some shadowy creatures in your life, if you have experienced some sort of abuse taking place of any kind, and it left a mark on you, and you lived consequences of it through time and space, and you perhaps been acknowledging that you could have had a completely different life if that wouldn't have happened, and this idea that we're all one and it all happens for a reason and that everything is a reflection of you just doesn't sit well with you. I totally understand that, and I've been there. So I want to acknowledge that whatever happened to you is not justified. Sometimes abuse is abuse, and it will never be glorified, no matter how much you try to see it from the other side. And especially when you're in a pain of it and you're in the middle of it, and somebody comes in and tells you, yeah, you attracted this through law of resonance, or because of you've been thinking about it, you wanted it or something. It's just like, it doesn't feel, it's not right, it's not true. So if whatever happened to you, it doesn't mean that you deserved it, or that you wanted it, or that that it was your fault. No. And whatever happened, it's not something that you can change in the retrospect, and you do perhaps live with some consequences, but what you can change is relationship with that. And you don't have to. You can change, I'm going to go back to this point, you can change your relationship to that and take back your power and not let those things, people, whatever happened to you, whatever haunted you, whatever followed you, whatever is playing the role of that person who is following Harry Styles, whoever that is for you in your life, you can take your power back from them by changing your relationship to what happened. Because perhaps it still happens to you that you find yourself in those emotional states and mental states of feeling like they're stealing your life. They're stealing your life. They're stealing time that you could be spending happily connecting with other people. You are spending remembering and licking your wounds. And you can, at some point, when you're ready, you don't have to, but when you're ready, when the time comes, you can start changing the way you look at those things and change the way you're relating, so that you get your agency back and you choose how you feel and what you make out of it. But that needs to happen through you. That needs to happen in your own time and space and in your own pace. No one should ever impose that onto you. And I know it's a little bit tricky, because there is like empowerment and healing and transcendence being sold on every corner. And it kind of speaks to you in almost a bullying way of like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you see? We're all one. And you can't see, as long as you're still wired to be entangled with those scenarios, people, places, circumstances, whatever happened, you can't really see that we're all one. And that awareness of that there is a matching part, like a two puzzle pieces. The awareness of these two puzzle pieces kind of coming together and being like holding together, it must come through yourself. And that awareness that we're all one and that we're all kind of reflection of one another, it's really sweet. It's really sweet. I can tell from my own experience of 33 years of figuring something out, and then finally coming to that point of like, even the worst things that ever happened to me that really stole years of life and other whole lifelines that I could have been living, but I didn't, because I felt like I was under the consequences of whatever happened. even that was an act of love. But that's sweet only when you come to it through your own experience and through your own introspection, through your own organic growth and presence. That shouldn't ever be imposed onto you, because if it is, then it's gaslighting. It asks you to believe something that somebody else found out as truth while you are still living something that happened to you as truth. And you can't be at two places at the same time. You kind of can, but and you know what? You don't have to. You don't have to heal, transcend, and be empowered and be grateful for your suffering. You don't have to. I know that there's a lot of talk about it everywhere on the internet, especially in multidimensional places. But that's sign of the times. I didn't mean to be hairstylish, but that's sign of the times. That's not your response. It's not your obligation. That's what I want to say. It's not your obligation. You can follow your own timing of when are you ready to see things differently and take your power back, but you don't have to. You don't have to. Sometimes you really have to go through it, longer route, perhaps even get safety and justice, safety in your body, safety in the system that you're living in, before you can actually see it differently. So don't let yourself be dragged into places where you're not ready to step in yet. If you're not ready, because you will be ready in your own time. You can use other people's experiences as signposts, and you can then choose for yourself. Are you ready to move towards the healing aspect of it, just like other people did? Or do you still need more time? And if you need more time, that's totally fine. The most important is that you listen to yourself first and foremost before everybody else. I guess that kind of also relates to the beginning of this, like be in your heart. Because your mind will take you in all possible directions, in all possible places. And you will end up being like, I don't know what's true. And that will not feel good for your body. So in all cases, just center yourself in the body, in your heart. What I'm getting from this painting is that the template is kind of bleeding into the experience. It's like the template itself is speaking to you, through you, about what is it that is standing on your own way, which is you again. But it informs you how, and it's more about like something is bleeding into your experience. It's leaking. It's so impossible to ignore it. It's so impossible to keep it invisible that it just kind of it has to be part of your awareness now. This is one of those paintings that I feel like I could spend hours doing it. And I feel like it has a lot of symbolism, a lot of symbolic appearances that could inform you particular. Like, you could look into this painting and find things that I'm gonna leave unnamed, and I'm not gonna read this painting because I'm just gonna let it speak for itself. So I take photo of this painting and I put it at the very end of the video, so you can check that out. And if you can also see like the edited version of it. I'm gonna put it in the link down below, in the pinned comment, I mean. And I'm gonna leave the painting here. I've lost sometimes I lose my voice, sometimes I lose my flow, but I'm still here. Thank you for being here as well. If you make it to the end of the video, thank you for being here. Ciao.